Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, today I am going to talk about Fairclough's dialectical relational approach. It is also called dialectical relational reasoning approach or simply dialectical reasoning. But if you remember, in our last class, we talked about socio-cognitive approach to critical discourse studies. Now it is time that we should talk about dialectical relational approach to discourse studies. And Fairclough is usually the originator of this approach. We should remember that Norman Fairclough takes into account Foucauldian concepts of power, Foucauldian concepts of discourse, and of course, then he gives his own idea of critical discourse analysis. Fairclough is considered one of the most impressive and influential practitioners in critical discourse analysis, as he has contributed to the field most significantly. In his earlier work, he called his approach to language and discourse as critical language study. His main objective is to help increase consciousness of how language contributes to the domination of some people by others, because consciousness is the first step for emancipation. If you remember, we have already discussed one of the definitions of Fairclough of critical discourse analysis, where he calls it that social semiosis. So, critical means emancipation, the ability of a person not to be governed by others, the ability of a person not to be dominated by others. It means you are critical. And the very first step for the emancipation is giving awareness to the people. So, wherever there is power, there are people who would not like this power. Wherever there is power, there will be certain people who will be in the middle. They will be exercising the power, and there will be certain people who will be on the margin and they will be affected by this power. So, we are supposed to give consciousness, awareness to such type of people, to give them consciousness to see that how different social practices they are being used, they are being manipulated by the powerful people to dominate the other people. His recent works examines neoliberalism, the notion of community in international security, the political power concepts of globalization, and he believes in knowledge-based economy. Knowledge-based economy gives me the idea of what our universities are doing these days. You know, these ideas are coming from the West. So we teachers also talk about the commercialization of knowledge. We also talk about commercialization of the universities these days. So there are pamphlets, there are advertisements, there are so many things that we are doing in the university, and we are running some sort of business. And Fairclough is very much against the commercialization of the universities. He thinks that we should raise consciousness, we should raise voice against that how these days we are running our universities. The work of Norman Fairclough presents a comprehensive and programmatic attempt to develop a theory of CDA, which links discourse, power, and social structure. In socio-cognitive approach, we talked about that there is discourse, there is society, and there is an interface of cognition. That discourse and society, they work side by side. Why? Because there is a triangle, and the cognition, the mind of the person, the cognitive abilities of the person, they create a link between discourse and society. So in this way, we have cognition, we have discourse, and we have society, and all of them are interlinked. And we cannot eliminate the role of cognition. We cannot eliminate the role of society. We cannot eliminate the role of discourse. Three of them work together. But in Norman Fairclough's approach, we have got discourse which is being linked with power and social structures. So what are social structures? This university has got a social structure. Our home is an institution. It has got a social structure. Foucault talks about the social institutions. Our home is a social institution where people learn how to talk, how to behave, how to react. Then we have got a university, which is a social institution, which is run under the policies of the government, and government develops the policies for the universities. Then it is governed. Then, for example, we have got court, we have got law system, we have got so many other institutions, and all these institutions, they are following certain laws. Fairclough examines the role of social institutions in shaping discourse practices and argues that language is always shaped by the material and social conditions in which it is produced. Discourse is always shaped by the material and social conditions in which it is produced. So we have got, materiality, we have got materials, we have got social conditions, we have got institutions, and these institutions, they shape our practices. Our home, first of all, it shapes our practices, it shapes our behavior, it shapes that how we are supposed to interact, how we are supposed to sit, how we are supposed to talk, how we are supposed to react. Then our schools, colleges, they also shape our behavior. And sometimes when the discourses, they are powerful, they are shaping our behavior. And sometimes when the people, they are powerful, they are also shaping our behavior. According to Fairclough, discourse is used in various senses. So number one, it is a meaning making process. Meaning making, which works as an element of the social process. The language associated with a particular social field or practice. Of course, language, for example, we have got, language, medical discourse. Okay, we have got social discourse, we have got institutional discourse, we have got discourse related to law. So they have got their own terminologies, their own terms, and within those terms and terminologies, within those institutions, people, they make use of that discourse. It is a way of construing, understanding aspects of the world associated with a particular social perspective. Fairclough prefers to use semiosis for most abstract and general sense, which has the further advantages of suggesting that discourse analysis is concerned with various semiotic modalities of language. In one way or the other, we have got semiotic modalities, meaning making process, language, visual images, body language, language in writing, language in spoken form, language on the internet. And then, of course, on the internet, we find visuals, we find, oral discourse, and our body language, the way we, walk, the way we display our personalities. All these things are part and parcel of this semiosis, of this semiotic modalities that Fairclough talks about. Semiosis is viewed here as an element of the social process because language is used in the society, so it is a part of the social process which is dialectically related to others, hence a dialectical relational approach. Dialectical. All these elements that I have talked about, our language, body language, visual expressions, visual language, visual elements, they work together. Though they look that they are different, but they work together, they have got a relationship. So that is a dialectical approach. Relations between elements are dialectical in the sense of being different but not discrete, because our spoken language is different from written language. Our body language is different from the semiosis, from the language that we are producing. Our visual expressions, visual modalities, oral modalities, they are different. But at the same time, they are working together to produce discourse. We might say that each internalizes the others without being reducible to them. So all these things, they internalize the other. CDA is brought into a dialogue with sociological and social scientific research in order to investigate to what extent, in what ways these changes are changes in discourse. How do they work in discourse? How do all these modalities they play their part in the discourse that we are producing? It explores the socially transformative effects of discursive change. So we bring about change in the society with the help of discourse that we are producing. So we have got discourse, institutional discourse, okay, and it shapes our behavior. Fairclough has developed a dialectical theory of discourse and a transdisciplinary approach to social change. And this change or this approach explores the discursive aspects of contemporary processes of social transformation. With the help of discourse, we bring about changes in the society. This discourse is so powerful. In one of my videos, I have already talked about Fairclough's 3D model. It is called 3D model. Why? Because it has got three dimensions of discourse. They are texts, which are the objects of linguistic analysis. They are discursive practices, the way discourse is produced, the way discourse is distributed, the way discourse is consumed. For example, in our 9th or 10th class textbooks, we talk about or we give the very first chapter, that is Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Discourses are ideological. Ideology is embedded in the discourse. We cannot eliminate ideology from discourse. It is our ideology that we want our students to become practicing Muslims, to know that what our last prophet, Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he talked about, how he behaved, what he said, how he produced discourse, how he influenced the people. And of course, these discourses, they influence us as well. So there are discursive practices, how discourse is produced, disseminated, distributed, and consumed. So media is producing discourse, teachers are producing discourse, and students are consuming the discourse. And through media, the whole of the country is consuming that discourse. So whatever they are feeding us, we are consuming that discourse. Discourses, they have got direct and indirect ways of saying, of doing the things. I have already talked about so many examples that how they represent different characters and how they interact, and while interacting, they feed us so many things. वो कॉल नहीं करता तो मैं कर लूंगी. And the kinds of clothes that they put on when they are producing films and dramas, indirectly they are telling us that we should also follow the same kinds of rules, the same kinds of styles, the same kind of the kind of things that they are wearing. We should also adopt the same kind of things. We should try to adopt the same ideology that they are having. We should try to adopt the same kinds of clothes that they are wearing. Though they are not directly saying this thing to us, indirectly they are telling us that this is how we should react, this is how we should act, this is how we should produce discourse, this is how we should consume discourse. And of course, we consume such type of discourses, and then we bring about changes in us. And when we are changed, the society gets changed. When every person is trying to follow them, it means that there are changes which are coming in the society. And sometimes these changes, okay, they are acceptable, and sometimes these are not acceptable. But media knows that one of the characters of discourse is that when discourse is produced, it should be acceptable. So such type of discourses are produced, and they are produced in such a way that people start to accept them. Maybe in the beginning there is resistance, but later on they accept such type of discourses. So social practices, the power relations, ideologies, and hegemonic struggles that discourses reproduce, challenge, or restructure. So we will have to see that how these discourses are produced, how they are disseminated, and how they are consumed. And when these discourses are produced, they are produced by powerful people, they are produced by powerful institutions. In our home, our father is powerful, and when he speaks, everybody listens to him. Or in our home, if our grandmother is powerful, so when she speaks, everybody listens to her. So home is an institution, and she holds the floor for a longer period of time. She is speaking and we all are listening to her. Or if he is speaking, we all are listening to him. So whatever he or she is saying, we try to internalize those discourses here. And once they are internalized, we act accordingly. We produce those discourses when we are interacting with our friends. We produce those discourses through our behaviors. So this approach of CDA focuses on two dialectical relations between structure, especially social practices, as an intermediate level of structuring and events, or between structure and action, structure and strategy, and within each between semiotic and other elements. So all these things, they are combined together. So 3D model, it talks about at three different levels of discourse. Okay, so there is textual level. We look at the text, we try to understand the meaning. Okay, and then there is interpersonal level, where we are trying to understand that what is our relationship with the text, what kind of relationship the text is producing or creating with us, how it has been disseminated, how it is being consumed by the people, how it is being produced by the author, how the text or talk is produced by the speaker, how it is disseminated to the people, how people are consuming that talk now. It has got multiple levels, effects at multiple levels. So discourse is so powerful. So within our interaction, this power, it works. And the role of the institution, that is very important. Discourse is itself constitutive or constructive of social structure. So discourse is constitutive. It constitutes our behavior. It constitutes that what I can put on, what I cannot put on, what I can say and what I cannot say. It is constructive of our social practice. It is constructive of our social behavior. And it contributes to the construction of the three effects. It concerns the construction of social self or identity. So discourse constructs my social self, my identity. Discourse constructs your social self, your identity. It constructs our identity. We tell the girl that how she should behave, how she should interact, how she should laugh, how she should walk, how she should sit, how she should comb her hair. So we are constructing the identity of a girl, and same is the case with the boy as well. The construction of social relationship between people. Discourse is so powerful that it constructs our relationship with the people, and we know that what kind of language we can speak with our junior, what kind of language we can speak with our senior, what kind of language I can speak with my colleague, what will be the level of interaction that I can enjoy with a particular person. The construction of systems of knowledge and belief. So of course, discourse, it has got construction of systems, construction of knowledge, construction of beliefs. So it has got three functions: an identity function, identity formation, a lexical function, and an ideational function. You should remember that Fairclough usually follows systemic function linguistics. In systemic function linguistics, we have three levels of analysis. Ideational level, what is the content? Interpersonal level, what is the relationship of the speakers? What is the relationship of the text with the reader? What is the relationship of the reader with the producer, with the of the reader with the text? And then the textual meta function. So textual function, we are looking at the text. So three elements are the main domains of the analysis of 3D model presented by Fairclough. And Fairclough takes all these things from Halliday and Ruqayya Hassan. Their approach, systematic functional approach to language. So that is text, process of interpretation, discourse practice, and socio-cultural practice. Of course, because language is produced in the society. So in society, we have got culture. So macro level of analysis, we are looking at the macro level of analysis, the macro issues, the bigger issues, okay, the marginalization, the power abuse, okay, the materials which are there, which are used in the production of the discourse, in the consumption of the discourse. So these are the three levels of discourse that Fairclough talks about: description, interpretation, and explanation. Okay, and in one of my videos, I have already talked about 3D model of Fairclough. So we also look at intertextuality. We also look at how intertextuality plays its role in the text. Sometimes intertextuality, it is manifest, sometimes it is hidden. You are writing an essay, you are writing a research paper, and you quote some other author and you use inverted commas. So when the text is given in the inverted commas, it is manifest intertextuality. And when you just give the ideas of the other person and you use your own language and then you give the reference, this is called hidden intertextuality. Okay. So at textual analysis, the first step in the 3D model is that we look at the text. It involves the analysis of the way propositions are structured, sentences they are structured, they are put together, and how they are presenting some kind of concept, and the way propositions are combined and sequenced. Fairclough organized text analysis under four main headings, forming a kind of ascending scale, smaller units to bigger ones, of course. Vocabulary, words, when they are combined, we are getting a phrase. Phrases, when they are put together, we are getting a clause or a sentence. So clauses, when they are put together, we get a complex sentence. So this is the first level of analysis. Okay, so we have got grammar here, we have got, different kinds of words, that how they are produced, how they are formed into sentences. What is the role of transitivity? Transitivity means verbs, what kind of role they are producing. Are they mental verbs, okay, or they are action verbs, or they are stative verbs? And what is the modality? What kind of cohesion is used? What kind of coherence is there? How the structure is developed? What is the organizational patterns that the author has made use of? What is the interactional control? What is the length of the sentence? Is it a small sentence, or is it a long sentence, or is it the combination of both kind of sentences? What kind of choices the author has made use of? And at discursive or second level, we look at the type of analysis in which, interaction in the text and interaction, the view of discourse is presented. Discursive practice, this dimension specifies the nature of the process of text production and interpretation. What is the role of the author? What objectives did he have in his mind when he was producing the discourse? How his discourse is going to affect the audience? What is the relationship of the text producer with the text consumer? And what is the role of the text consumer with the text itself? What is the agenda of the reader when he is reading the text, or of the listener when he is listening to the talk? So this is how we are carrying out the analysis at second level, that is interpersonal level, that is discourse practice level. And at third level, of course, that is the bigger level, we relate those sentences with the issues that which are there in the society. If it is neoliberal issue, Marxist issue, okay, marginalization issue, or how women they have been presented to the world, is there, you know they have been marginalized, or they have been stereotypically presented. So we relate all these things with the bigger issues. Now here, lastly, I would like to say something. When our students they are going to the panel of judges who are evaluating their work, and usually it is said that their project, it is not getting accepted by the people who are evaluating your research proposal. Remember, Fairclough's model not only talks about description, explanation, or interpretation of the text, where you are trying to give awareness to the people that look, this is what we can do, because we are not the policy makers, but at least we can give certain ideas to the policy makers that look, this is the problem which exists in the society, and this could be the possible solution. So when you are making your proposals, you should come out having analyzed the data, having collected the data, analyzed the data. You are giving your findings. So in your findings, there must be certain recommendations for the policy makers, that what steps they should pick, what steps they should take to control, to curb, to eliminate such type of problems from the society. If you are not proposing these things, your proposal, research proposal, is not going to be accepted. So keep this thing in your mind, that Fairclough wants that when you are having analyzed the data, when you have carried out the analysis, now you have got your findings, recommend, make recommendations for policy makers, that what steps they can pick up in order to eliminate those problems from the society. If you are not suggesting these things, your proposal is not going to be accepted. For example, people are talking about Aurat March, and they are trying to do critical discourse analysis of the advertisements, of the play cards of Aurat March, or the representation of women, that how they have been represented, or the kind of problems that women are facing in Pakistan. So you must be able to suggest that what are the steps that you would like the policy makers to accept from you, what concrete steps that they can take from your research, and they can you know make policies, and then they can implement those things in the society. If you are not proposing these things, your proposal is not going to be accepted. So in dialectical relational approach, this is very important, that when you are using 3D model, you should be able to talk about the social problems which are there, and what is the solution to those problems that you are presenting. Thank you very much.